Chapter 4. Temujin takes the title of Genghis and rewards his empire builders. One more great struggle was in store now for Temujin, that with Baibuga, the Naiman, his father-in-law. Baibuga, alarmed at the rising power of his own daughter's husband, sent an envoy to Alakush Tegin, the Ongut chief, to get aid. "Thou knowest," said Baibuga, "that two swords cannot be in one scabbard, or two souls in one body. Two eyes cannot be in one socket, or two sovereigns in one region. Make haste, then, to seize the horn of empire which this upstart is seeking." Alakush and the Onguts lived next the Great Wall of China and guarded it, at least during intervals, for the Emperor of China. This Ongut chief was sagacious. He was near Temujin and remote from Baibuga. He judged that the former was rising and the latter declining. Hence, after some thought, he neglected Baibuga, left his message unanswered, and sent an envoy to explain the whole matter to Temujin. Baibuga found other allies, however. Knowing clearly his father-in-law's intention, Temujin did not fail to be first on the battlefield. As the spring of 1204 was beginning, he held a great council of his leaders. Some thought their horses too weak after winter, but others preferred to move promptly. Action pleased Temujin, hence he set out immediately, but halted before he reached the Nile boundary. It was autumn when he entered the enemy's country and found arrayed there against him men from the Merkits, the Kerites, Urats, Durbans, Katkins, Tartars, and Saljuts. In fact, forces from each hostile people were ready before him, in the hope of destroying or at least undermining his primacy. There was also Jamuka, his irrepressible enemy. Temujin ranged his army for action. To Juchi Kasar, his brother, he confided the center. Overseeing himself the entire army, he reserved a certain part for his own use. When Jamuka saw this arrangement, he said to his officers, "My friends, Temujin knows how to range men for battle much better than Baibuga." And foreseeing an evil end to Baibuga in that action, Jamuka fled from the field of battle quickly. The two armies met and fought desperately from sunrise to sunset. Many times the great issue seemed doubtful, but when all was wavering, like two even scales of a balance, Temujin came with new forces at the perilous moment and gave greater weight to his own side. Just after sunset, the Simon force broke and fled in confusion, sweeping with it Baibuga, badly wounded. The in-law, Taiyang, fled on foot first to a neighboring mountain where Kubasu, his wife, was. Later on, he was hurried to a place of more safety, where he died soon of wounds and of blood loss. Temujin, ever swift to pursue, hunted down his fleeing father. His men captured Kubasu, who was joined to his household. They captured also Baibuga's seal keeper, Tatungo, an Uyghur of learning. Brought before Temujin, he explained what a seal is. "Remain with me," said the conqueror, "use the seal in my name, and teach my sons the language and lore of the wise Uyghurs." All allies of the Naimans submitted, except the Merkits and the Tartars who fled from the battlefield. Guchluk, Baibuga's son, sought safety with Buyruk, his uncle. At this time, the Chatalans, the Katkins, and all others who had followed Jamuka surrendered to Temujin. Temujin now hurried in pursuit of Tuktabihi, the chief of the Merkits. He hunted him to Sari-Keher and captured many of his people, but Tuktabihi fled farther with Chailaun and Katu and a few attendants. At the beginning of the Merkits' subjection, Dire Usun, chief of the Wasit Merkits, gave Kulan Khatun, his daughter, to Temujin. When he was taking the girl to the conqueror, the road was impassable through disorder. He met on the way a man, Naya, of the Barans. "I am giving my daughter to Temujin," said Dire Usun to Naya. "Come with me," answered Naya. "If thou go alone, wandering warriors will kill thee and do what they like with thy daughter." So he and Dayaru-sun traveled 3 days together, and after that, Kulan was given to Temujin, who, on learning that she had been 3 days in company with Naya, was angry. "Torture this Naya," said Temujin. "Learn all his secrets and kill him." When they set about torturing Naya, Kulan spoke up to save him. "On the road, Naya met us. He said that he was one of the Khan's men, and since on the way there were many disorderly warriors, he offered to help us. My father and I were 3 days in his company. Without Naya's help, I know not what would have happened. Torture him not, but if the Khan will be merciful, examine my innocence." "I serve my lord faithfully," said Naya. "I hold it my duty to bring to him beautiful women and the best of all horses. If there are thoughts beyond this in me, I am ready to die at any moment." "Kulan speaks with wisdom," said Temujin. That same day the girl was examined. Temujin grew convinced that she was truthful and liked her the more for her wisdom. He dismissed Naya, saying, "This man is not false. We may trust him with tasks of importance." After the subjection of the Merkits, Kuda, the wife of Tukta-Bijhi, was given to Temujin's son, Ogutai. Later on, one half of the Merkits revolted, retired, and took Taikal, a fortress in the mountains. The son of Sorgan Shira was sent to attack them. Temujin himself went to the Altai and there passed the winter. In the spring, he crossed the mountains in search of Tukta-Bijhi. At that time, Guchluk joined Tukta-Bijhi. They drew up their army at the Irtish near its sources, and there Temujin found and attacked them. Tukta-Bijhi was killed in a very fierce battle. His sons were unable to bear the body, so they cut his head from the trunk and thus saved it. The Merkits fled from the battlefield, and more than half of those warriors drowned in the Irtish, and the rest scattered and saved their lives as best they could. Guchluk fled to the land of the Karluks and still farther westward to the Gur Khan. Kutu and Shilan fled through Kanli and Kincha. While all this was happening, Sorgan Shira's son captured the fortress at Taikal and killed or seized all the Merkits. Those who had not left their own homeland revolted as well as the Merkits. Others, but were captured through men sent by Temujin to quell them. "If we let those people remain in one land," declared Temujin, "they will rise again, surely." And he had them conducted in small bands to various new places. That same year, Temujin made an iron kibitka for Subutai and sent him to hunt down and seize all the other sons of Tukta-Bijhi. "Those men," said Temujin, "though defeated in battle, tore away recently like wounded wild deer or like wanton young stallions, and now thou must find them. If they fly on wings to the sky, become thou a falcon and catch them. If like mice they bore into the earth, be a strong iron spade and dig them out of it. If they hide as fish in the sea, be a net and enclose them. To cross deep ravines and high mountains, choose the time when thy horses are not weary. Spare thy warriors on the road, and hunt not at all save when need comes. When thou must hunt, hunt very carefully. Let not thy warriors use croupers or breast straps, lest their horses rush feebly. Should any man refuse thee obedience, bring him hither if I know him. If not, do thou kill him on the place of refusal. If with heaven's aid and protection thou seize Tukta-Bijhi's sons, slay them straightway." Then he added, "When I was young, 3 bands of Merkits pursued me, and thrice did they ride round Mount Burhan. These men have fled now with loud, insolent speeches, but thou must hunt them down to the uttermost limits if need be. I have made a kivitka of iron to convey and protect thee. Though far away, thou wilt ever be near me. Heaven will keep thee most surely while traveling, and will give thee assistance."
When the Naimans and Merkits were captured by Temujin, Jamuka had lost all his people and was left in the land of the Naimans, deprived of property and attended by only 5 servitors. He went then to the mountain Tanlu and lived there by robbery and hunting. One day those 5 servitors seized him and took him to his enemy. Jamuka sent these words then to Temujin: "Slaves had the insolence to seize their own master and betray him. Mistake not, O Khan, my friend, these words which I send thee." "Is it possible to leave men unpunished who betray?" asked Temujin. "Give them to death with their children and grandchildren." Then he commanded to slay those 5 traitors.
Before the eyes of Jamuka, to whom he sent at the same time this message: "Once I made thee a shaft of my kibitka, but thou didst desert me. Thou hast joined me again, so now be my comrade. Should one of us forget, the other will remind him. If one falls asleep, the other will rouse him. Though thou didst leave me, thou wert still in reality my assistant. Though thou didst oppose, I got no harm in the end from that action. When thou and I had a battle, thy heart was regretful, apparently. When I warred with Wang Khan, thou didst send me his discourses. That was the earliest service. When I was battling with the Naimans, thy words made their hearts shake. That was another good service." These words were taken to Jamuka, and he answered: "When we became Andas in boyhood, we ate food too strong for our stomach. We gave words to each other which nothing can take from our memory. People roused us to quarrel, and we parted. I blush when I think of my speeches uttered once to my Anda, and I dare not look now at thee. It is thy wish that I be for the future thy comrade. I might call myself thy comrade, but I could be no comrade to thee in reality. Thou hast joined peoples together. Thou hast built up dominion. No man on earth can now be thy comrade. Unless thou kill me, I shall be for thee henceforth like a louse on thy collar outside, or a thorn in thy inner neckband. Thou wouldst not be at rest in the daytime, while at night thou wouldst sleep with alarm in thy bosom were I to be near thee. Thy mother is prudent, thou thyself art a hero, thy brothers are gifted, thy comrades are champions, thou hast 73 leaders. But from childhood I have had neither father nor mother, I have no brothers, my wife is a babbler, my comrades are traitors. Hence, O my Anda, whom heaven has preferred, give me death the more quickly that thy heart may be quiet. If thou let me die without blood loss, I after death and for ages will help thy descendants and protect them." On hearing this answer, Temujin said, "Jamuka, my Anda, went his own way in life, but his words have in fact never harmed me. He is a man who might change even now, but he has not the wish to live longer. I have tried divination to search out good reasons to kill him, but have not discovered them thus far. What must I do? He is a man of distinction, and we may not... Because of horse stealing and quarrels between Taichar, my slave, and Dharmala, thy brother, thou didst attack me and fight at Baljuna. Thou didst frighten me dreadfully. I wish now to forgive thee and make thee my comrade, but thou art unwilling. I am sorry that thy life should be taken, but thou wilt not permit me to save it. Hence we must do what thou wishest." Temujin then commanded to take life from Jamuka without blood loss and bury him with honor. Altan and Huchar were put to death also at that time. When Temujin had subdued to his own undivided dominion the various peoples opposed to him, he raised on the Upper Onan in 1206 his great standard of 9 white tails and took the title Genghis,
mighty, to distinguish him from all other Khans. After that he rewarded Munlifk, Borchu, Mukali, and others who had helped him in building the empire, and those who had shown special service. "Thou hast been to me a comrade," said Genghis, as we shall now call Temujin, to Munlik, his stepfather. "Thou hast helped me very often, but above all when Wang Khan and his son were enticing me to a false feast to kill me. If I had not halted that day, I should have dropped into hot fire and deep water. I remember this service of thine, and will not let my descendants forget it. Henceforth thou wilt sit first in thy order. As I reward thee by the year or the month, so will that reward be continued to all thy descendants unbrokenly." "In my youth," said Genghis to Borju, "Taijut thieves stole my 8 horses. I had chased 3 days and nights after them when I met thee. Thou didst become then my comrade, and ride 3 days and nights with me to find and restore those 8 horses. Why did it happen that Nahu Buyan, your rich father, who had only 1 son, let that son be my comrade? Because in thee traits of high justice were evident. After that, when I called thee to help me, thou didst not refuse, and wert prompt in thy coming. When the 3 Merkid clans drove me into the forests of Mount Borhan, thou didst not desert me, thou didst share my great suffering. When I spent a night before the enemy at Talan, and a great blinding rain came, thou didst give me rest, and spread out thy felt robe above me, and stand there and hold it, and not let that rain touch me. Thou didst stand in that painful position until daybreak, resting first on one leg and then on the other. This proves thy unbounded devotion. It would not be possible to recount all the good deeds which thou hast done since I saw thee the first day. Besides, thou and Mukuli advised me to that which was proper, and stopped me from that which should be omitted. Through doing the right thing in every great trial, I have reached my high power and dominion. Sit thou now with a few men above all others. I free thee from punishment for 9 death offenses. Be a commander of 10,000, and rule the land westward till thou touch the Golden Mountains." Then he turned to Mukuli and said to him, "When we were at Horho Nakubor, at the thick-spreading tree under which Khan Kutula made merry and was dancing, heaven bestowed wisdom and tidings which became clear to thee. I remember the words given then by thy keen father Gunua, and I make thee prince now because of those words and thy conduct ever after. Sit thou above other men in society, be a commander of 10,000 on the left wing, and govern on the east to the Haralin Mountains. Thy descendants will inherit thy dignity." "In youth," said Genghis to Horchi, "thou didst prophesy touching me. Thou didst share with me toils after that, and wert to me a true comrade. Now, when thy words of foreknowledge are verified and proven, I give thee what thou didst ask for at that time. I give thee the right to choose for thyself 30 beautiful maidens and women among all conquered nations. Bring together 3,000 of the Bali, the Adarki, and other clans ruled by Achik and by Togai, and when thou hast 10,000 assembled, command them and govern those people. Put up thy camps as may please thee and guard well that region. Let all the affairs that be under thy management. Genghis turned then to Churchadai. "Thy greatest service," said he, "was in that dreadful battle at Kalanshin against the strong Khan of the Karites. When Huildar declared that he would seize and hold Gubtan, thou didst take the vanguard. Success in that desperate encounter came from thee beyond any man. Thou didst break and hurl back the Jirkins, the strongest of the enemy, and after them came still others who broke the line of my own chosen bodyguard, who held the strong central position.
Thou didst wound with thy own hand Sengun in the cheek while he was making the last fearful onrush. Hadst thou not struck him then, it is unknown what would have followed. Later on, when we were moving down the Kalka, I relied upon thee as I might on a lofty, immovable mountain. On arriving at Baljuna, thou didst fight in the vanguard again, and with heaven's great assistance we crushed the Kerites at last, and because of that triumph, the Naimans and the Merkits could not resist us, and we scattered. When they were scattered, Jagambo gave me his daughters, and thus saved his people. But later on he revolted. Then thou didst think out a plan to entrap him and capture his people. That is thy second great service. With these words, Genghis gave Churchadai his own wife, Ibaha, the daughter of Jaganbo, to whom he spoke then as follows. Ibaha, I do this not because I have ceased to love thee, not because thou hast an evil temper of mind, or art lacking in beauty. I give thee to Churchadai to reward him in the highest way possible. I give thee to Churchadai because of his inestimable service, and I desire those of my sons and descendants who shall receive the throne after me to honor the dignity and fame of Ibaha. Now thou wilt grant me a favor. Thy father gave with thee Ashi Timur, who is master of thy kitchen, and 200 men to work under him. In going, leave with me 100 of those men, and leave also Ashi. Then Genghis said to Churchadai, I command thee to govern 4,000 of the units. Thou didst tame the wild, and bring down the rebellious, thou and Chelmai with Chepe and Sukhothai. Ye have been like 4 raging watchdogs in swiftness. If I sent you to any place, ye crushed hard immense stones into gravel. Ye overturned cliffs, and stopped the great rush of deep waters. Hence I command you to be in the battle front. The 4 heroes, Burchu, Mukali, Burum, and Chilaun, I command to be behind me, Churchadai to be in front, and thus make my heart free to be fearless. Kubilai be the elder in all warlike matters and decisions. Then he added, because of disobedience I do not make Baidun a commander apart and independent. I join him to thy person, that is better. Let him act with thee, and see thou what will come of it. After that, Genghis said to Burchu and others, Hunan is like a fearless wolf in the night time. In the day he is like a black raven. He joined me and never would act with bad people. In every affair, take ye counsel with Hunan and Kokosi. Let Hunan be commander of 10,000 under my eldest son, Juchi. No matter what Hunan and Kokosi and Daigai and Usun heard and saw, they kept back no word, and never distorted a word which they told me. When I was born at the river Onon, said Genghis to Chelmai, thy father came from Mount Burhan with the bellows of a blacksmith on his shoulders, and brought a sable wrap to put around me. Thou wert in swaddling clothes that day, O Chelmai, and he gave thee to serve me for life and inseparably. Thou hast grown up with me and shown immense service. Thou art my fortunate comrade. I release thee from 9 death penalties and reward thee. In former times, said Genghis to Vanguru, the master of nourishment, thou with 3 yurtas of the Tokaruts and 5 yurtas of Torguts, and with the Chanchikits and the Bayuts made one single camp with me. In darkness and fog thou hast never lost thy way marching.
In scattering and disorder thou hast never lost thy head. Thou hast endured cold and wet with me always, and nothing could shake or discourage thee. What reward dost thou wish of me this day? If thou in thy favor command me to choose, said Vanguru, I should wish to collect all the Bayuts who are scattered. Genghis consented. Collect them, be their commander, and govern them, was his answer. And he continued. Vanguru and Borul, while managing on the right and the left as masters of nourishment, and dispensing food justly, ye have pleased my heart well. So henceforth sit ye on horseback when food and drink are dispensed to great gatherings in the open. While feasting in tents, take your places on the right and the left at the door on the south side, and send food and drink to all present. My mother took you, said Genghis to Shigi Kutuku and Borul and Quichu and Kokochu. You made you her sons. She reared and prepared you to be comrades to us, her own children. Ye have paid her well for this benefaction. Borul was my comrade in the perils of battle, in nights of snow and of rain and of tempest. When exposed to the enemy, he never let me lack drink or food. On a time when we had destroyed nearly all of the Tartars, one of them, Hargil Shila, while fleeing for his life, felt great hunger and turned to get food from my mother. If thou desire food, said she to the Tartar, sit on that side of the entrance. He sat at the west of the door and there waited. Just then Tului, my son, who was 5 years of age, came in and was going out soon after when the Tartar caught him, thrust him under his arm, and snatched a knife quickly. He will kill the child, screamed my mother. Altani, Borul's wife, who was sitting east of the door, rushed at the Tartar, caught his hair with one hand and pulled his knife with the other so vigorously that she and the knife fell together. Now Chedai and Chelmai, who had just killed a cow a little north of the yurta, heard Altani screaming. They ran, one with a knife, the other with an axe, and killed the stranger. Altani, Chedai, and Chelmai disputed then as to who had shown the greatest service. If we had not run up, said Chedai and Chelmai, thou couldst not have managed the Tartar, O woman, and he would have finished Tului. If I had not screamed, said Altani, ye would not have run up, and if I had not seized his hair and snatched the knife from him, Tului would have perished ere ye could have saved him. Borul's wife won the word battle. In the struggle with Wang Khan at Kalanchin, Ogatai was wounded in the neck with an arrow. Borul sucked the blood from the wound and thus saved him from stifling. He has repaid very richly the trouble of rearing him by saving 2 sons of mine. In the most difficult places he was never neglectful. Hence 9 times will I save him from suffering the death penalty. Genghis spoke next to Sorgan Shira. When I was young, said he, Targutai Kurultuk with his brethren the Taijuts captured me. Thou with thy son hid me at thy yurta, and commanded Kadan, thy daughter, to serve me, and ye then gave me freedom. Day and night I remember this service, but ye came to me late, and only now am I able to reward you. What may your wish be? We should like, answered they, to make a camp in the Merkit land at Sailiange, and whatever other reward may be possible, let the Khan give it. Let it be as ye wish, make your camp in that country. Besides, let all your descendants bear arrows and bows, and drink a cup of wine in the camp of the Ultan.
Khan, when ye come to it, 9 death offenses will be forgiven. You, to Chilon and Chinbo, sons of Sorganshira, he said, how could I forget the words spoken once on a time by you, and the deeds done when ye spoke thus? Now should anything fail you, come yourselves and inform me. And he said further, Sorganshira, Badai and Kishlik, ye are free. Keep all the booty which ye may take during warfare at any time, and whatever game ye kill in hunting. Sorganshira, once thou wert Tudayan's servant. Badai and Kishlik, ye were horseherds to Yakcheran. Live with me henceforth and be happy. When thou with thy father seized Targatai, said Genghis to Naya, thou didst say, how could we yield up our master? Ye let him go then, and came to me as subjects. For that reason, I said, those people understand lofty duty. I will trust them. Babarshu is now commander of 10,000 on the right hand. Mukulai is commander of 10,000 on the left. Be thou a commander in the center. Genghis then directed Daigai, his shepherd, to collect homeless people and command them, when all who had labored to build up the empire had received their rewards and offices. Genghis Khan's stepfather, Munlik, brought his 7 sons to the assembly, and received for them good recognition. The 4th man of these was a shaman, Kokochu, a man of boundless ambition. Tengeri was his 2nd name. No one could tell who among these 7 brothers was the most self-willed and bitter. One day they attacked Juchi Kasser and beat him. Kasser complained to Genghis of this treatment. Genghis became angry.
Du hast boasted,
said he, that no man is thy equal in valor and skill. If that be true, why let those fellows beat thee? Kasser shed tears from vexation, went out, and for 3 days after that made no visit to his brother. Meanwhile Tengeri went to Genghis to incense him against Kasser. The spirit has given me a sacred command from high heaven, said the shaman. Genghis will rule people at first, and then will come Kasser. If thou set not Kasser aside, thy rule will be short-lived. When Genghis heard these words, he went that same night to seize Kasser. Kuechu and others informed Holun, who set out that night also in a kibitka drawn by a swift-going camel. She reached Kasser's yurta at sunrise, just as Genghis, having tied Kasser's sleeves, had taken cap and girdle from him and was asked him questions. When Genghis saw his mother, he was fully astonished and alarmed also. Holun was very angry. Stepping out of her kibitka, she untied Kasser, gave him back cap, said, and girdle, then sitting down she put her feet under her, bared her bosom and addressed the 2 brothers. See these breasts of mine, both of you? Ye too have drunk from them. What crime has Kasser committed that thou, Temujin, art destroying thy own kindred flesh in this brother? When thou wert an infant thou didst drink from this breast. Neither thou, Temujin, nor Temugu could draw my breasts thoroughly. Only Kasser could empty both sides and relieve me.
Temujin, du hast
gifts, but Kasser alone has the strength and the art to shoot arrows. Whenever men have risen in rebellion, he has brought them down with his arrows and tamed them. Every enemy now is destroyed, and Kasser is needed no longer. Genghis waited till Holun's anger had subsided. Then I was frightened when I acted. I am ashamed at this moment. He went out after these words, but later, unknown To his mother, he took away Kasser's people for the most part, leaving only 1,400 yurtas. At first he had given him 4,000. When Holun learned of this action she grieved much and died shortly after. Chepk was placed then with Kasser to guard him. After this many men gathered to the shaman, Temujin, among others people who belonged to Temujin, Jingiz's youngest brother. Temujin sent Sokar to lead back those people, but Temujin beat him, put a saddle on his back and sent him to his mother. Next day Temujin went himself to Temujin. The 7 brothers surrounded him. "How didst thou dare to send men to take people from us?" roared the brothers, and they were ready to beat him. "I ought not to have sent men to you," said Temujin, much frightened. "As thou art to blame, then beg pardon." And they forced him to kneel to them straight. Way. The next day, very early, while Genghis was in bed, Temujin fell on his knees before him and told how Temujin and his brothers had treated him. He wept while relating the details. Genghis had said no word yet, when Bortai came from her bed, with a blanket around her and, shedding tears meanwhile, spoke as follows: "This man has beaten Kasser, and now he has forced Temujin to his knees to beg pardon. What kind of order is this in thy dominion, if while thou art living they ruin thy brothers, majestic as cedars, when thou art dead the people, who are like grass blown by wind, or a mere flock of birds, will not obey thy small, helpless children. Temujin will come today," said Genghis to Temujin. "Deal with him as thou pleasest." Temujin went out and agreed with 3 very strong wrestlers. Mongolik came later with his 7 sons, and when Temujin sat near the door on the west side, Temujin, as he passed, seized him roughly by the collar. "Yesterday," said he, "thou didst force me to my knees. I will try strength today with thee." While Temujin was struggling with him, the cap fell from the head of the shaman. Mongolik took the cap and put it under his arm. "Wrestle not here," cried Genghis. "Go outside." When the 2 men stepped forth from the yurta tabe, Temujin was seized by the wrestlers, who broke his spine and threw him aside to the left, where he fell near the wheel of a kibitka. "Temujin," said Temujin to Genghis, "forced me to my knees yesterday to beg pardon. Now when I wish to try strength with him, he lies down and refuses to rise. It is clear that he is a coward." Mongolik understood and began to weep bitterly. "Ukang," said he, "I was thy assistant before thou wert even at the beginning of thy greatness, and I have continued to serve thee till this day." While he was speaking, his 6 sons stood near the center of the yurta and watched the door. They began to put up their sleeves as if for a struggle. Genghis rose. He was frightened, but shouted with sternness and authority, "Aside, I wish to go out." He went out, and his bodyguard of archers surrounded him. Seeing that Temujin was dead, Genghis commanded to pitch his own tent above the shaman's body, and then he went to another place. In the tent put over the body, the door and upper aperture were fastened, and at first a guard was placed around it. On the 3rd day at dawn the upper aperture opened, and the body of the wizard was lifted out through it. When inquiries were made, all learned that the body had vanished through the upper aperture, or smoke hole. "Temujin calumniated my brothers and beat them," said Genghis. "Hence heaven looked on him with anger and snatched away both his life and his body. After that he reproached Mongols sharply, "Thou hast failed to teach them some what was needed very greatly in their case. Obedience. This one tried to equal me, hence I extinguished him. Had I known thee earlier, I should have put an end to thee as I have to Jamuka, to Alton and Kujer. But if a man gives a word in the morning and breaks it ere night comes, or gives it in the eve ning and breaks it in the morning, the judgment of people will shame him. I have promised to save thee from death, so let us now end this matter." After these words, Genghis Khan's anger was diminished. When Temujin was dead, the vanity of Mongolik and his sons decreased greatly and soon disappeared altogether. In 1207, a new and victorious campaign was begun against Tangut, which had failed to pay tribute, but was brought down, now thoroughly, at least for a season, the subjection of the Kyrgyz, and this new victory over Tangut secured the position of Genghis in northeastern Asia. There was not one man now to challenge his dominion. Groups of people or tribes might rebel, but there was no power to stop him or modify his policy. He was preparing to meet foreign nations. The first turn was for China. Arakatai Black Cathay was at that time a very large empire, composed of many nations. The ruler of each of these nations acknowledged the overlordship of the Gurkhan or sovereign. In length, Karakatai extended westward from Tangut to the Neon Empire, and in width from the upper Irtish to the highlands. Within its borders were the lakes now known as Balkash, Istiklal, and Lav, of cities now existing. Kulja would be close to the center, Kashgar and Yarkand the Goodness, Tans from its western border, while Khotan would be well rated. Moved from its southernmost limit, nearly all Central Asia was included in this empire, while vassal states extended far beyond its western and southwestern borders. The Uyghurs, whose chief city was Bishkek, lived in the northeast corner of the empire and touched on the names. These Uyghurs are famous, at least among scholars, as having been the most devoted to learning of all Turkish nations. From them, it was that the Mongols received an alphabet and their earliest instruction. The Idikut, or ruler, of the Uyghurs acknowledged the Gurkhan as overlord, but the yearly tribute which he paid and the daily tyranny of the agent near his court so annoyed him that he took this official's life at a place known as Karakaja. He resolved thereupon to seek the protection of Genghis, whose triumphs and whose power were threatening even China and filling all Asia. With amazement and terror, Barja, the watchful Idikut, had appointed an embassy to the conqueror, but events had delayed. Its departure handed the three sons of Temujin and their uncle fled taken. Their father's head, which they had cut with all haste from his body on the battlefield, they dispatched an envoy in advance to the Idikut to beg a refuge for themselves and protection. The Idikut, seeing danger in their visit, slew the envoy, took the field against the brothers, and scattered all their forces. But later on he was troubled greatly by this act, for these new opponents might side with the Mongols, or they might join the Gurkhan. They might rouse either party to move against him. The Idikut's delight was great, therefore, and genuine. When Mongol envoys appeared before him, Genghis had heard of the Idikut's resolve, and, knowing well what good might rise from it, had taken action very promptly and dispatched a envoys Alp Utug and Derbai to the ruler of the Uyghurs. The Idikut showed the highest honor to these envoys, and dismissed them with every mark of courtesy and friendship, associating 2 envoys of his own to bear to Genghis Khan the following message. The fame of the world-conquering sovereign has come to me. Ahab agreed till very recently with the Gurkhan, and was just preparing to explain through an embassy a change in my position, and to yield myself with upright heart to thee, all-conquering and mighty sovereign. While thinking over this, I saw thy envoys coming toward me, and then I beheld the blue heavens through the clouds around me. I beheld a bright sun in the sky. I saw beside the blue shining river where just before the ice had hidden everything. I was filled with delight to my innermost being. I yield to thee the land of the Uyghurs. I myself am the servant and son of Genghis Khan the immovable. T first sight it might seem that the Mongol Khan would be satisfied with a statement of this kind, but he was far from satisfaction, for just then came 4 envoys from the sons of Tukta, BG declaring their subjection. The Uyghur envoys were received with every honor, but since he doubted the Idikut's sincerity, Genghis sent envoys a second time, with this message: if the Idikut has the honest wish to subject himself, let him come to us in person, and present us with what there is of greatest value in his treasure house. On hearing this message, the Idikut went to his treasure house, and took from it the best of gold, silver, pearls, and other precious objects. These were sent to Genghis Khan that same summer, but the Idikut excused himself from offering them in person, and added various reasons to explain his own absence. Fresh disorders broke out in Tanga, which caused new panic. The Mongols invaded that country a third time, routed its warriors, captured the city of Waraka and the fortress of Iman. A second Tangut army was scattered, and Chom Sing, the chief capital, was invested. During this siege peace was calm. Clued and the Tangut king gave his daughter to Genghis in marriage. During 1209, the Mongol sovereign returned home in triumph, and found Arslan Khan of the Karluks and the Idikut of the Uyghurs waiting to render him homage. Arslan Khan had till then ruled conjointly with an agent of the Gurkhan, his suzerain, but, as the power of the Gurkhan had diminished in recent days, very sensibly many princes who had recognized him up to that time revolted. Among these was the Sultan of Khotan, who marched against him with an army and persuaded Arslan Khan to drop allegiance of Arslan, made haste to help the Sultan more, since at that time he was advised of the Gurkhan's plans by that sovereign's deceitful emir, Temujin, this traitor so reverent, scented Arslan to his overlord, the Gurkhan, that the latter gave him the title son, and appointed for him the agent whom Tenigu recommended. But when Mongol victories taken place throughout northern Asia, Arslan acted quickly. He slew the agent of the Gurkhan, joined Genghis Khan very promptly, and waited for his favor. Arslan said that if he received a golden girdle and a high position in the Mongol service, he would have one wish alone unratified, to be the 5th son of the great Khan. Genghis, divining this wish of his, or learning of it, had it gratified. He gave Arslan his daughter Altan Bigi in marriage, and with her the title of 5th son was added. Thus Genghis Khan was entrenched in Karachitai very firmly. His next move was on Khitai itself, the great North China Empire. He was now master of mighty legions drawn from all tribes whose leaders and chiefs he had driven from existence in that fierce fight for dominion. during which no mercy had been manifest on either
When the biggest
side,
part
but
of
in
you
which
is
greater
your
wisdom
mind,
with
and you've
keenness
taken
and skill
tests with
also.
interpreters on
Fortune
that.
to some extent
Everything
were with
real is
Genghis.
kind of this. When the biggest part of you is your mind, and you've taken tests with interpreters on that. Everything real is kind of this. When the biggest part of you is your mind, and you've taken tests with interpreters on that. Everything real is kind of this. When the biggest part of you is your mind, and you've taken tests with interpreters on that. Everything real is kind of this.
As far as anyone knows, he's doing fine, he glows. As far as anyone knows, he's doing fine, he glows.